Hey, what's up guys? Mark from Guitar Guts here, and today I want to talk about guitar strings. I just made the announcement this week that I'm an official Ernie Ball artist, which is so awesome because I've been using their products for probably 20 years now, and to be on the same roster as all the people on the back here is just mind-blowing. Anyways, I use a bunch of different strings from them, and not a lot of people know exactly what the string gauge means on the front of them. All the different color slinky strings use a different string gauge. And I use a few different products from them. I use 838s, 942s, 1046, and sometimes even 1148s. I don't really use 838s that much anymore. I used to love them because you can get your action super low with really thin strings. The smaller the number, the smaller the string size. So an 838 is much smaller than your standard light gauge, which is a 942. A 38 to a 42 is a pretty big jump for your low E. 9 to 8 isn't a huge difference, but the one thing that made me switch really from a 838s back to 942s is when you go to bend your notes, you don't have as much control because the strings are so thin with real light gauge strings that you don't have as much control to find the exact note. It's a lot easier to bend them, but you can't stop at the right spot. There's a little more tension on these thicker strings, which is actually nice to have the resistance that pulls back against you and you find that sweet spot. But the thing that's awesome about the lighter gauge strings is you can get the strings action lower. So you can lower your strings down, and if you're a shredder or a lead guitarist, it makes it a lot easier to play real fast, difficult scales and arpeggios and all that stuff. But you also don't get as strong and thick of a tone out of a lighter gauge string as you do with something like a 1148 or something, some people use a 1252s, which is a real thick string. Mostly I use 942s on everything I play in standard. A lot of people, that's too light for them though. I also use 1046s, but I use these on half step down, and this is what a lot of people like for their standard, but you just gotta try all the different string gauges and find out what you like. You don't really wanna be bouncing around all over the place and buying different string gauges every single time unless you're still trying to find out what you like, but you should be making notes or something so that you know and you can adjust your strings action and the bow of the truss rod accordingly, because if you go from something like an 838 up to a 1148, these are gonna have so much more tension if you're in the same tuning. If you stay in standard and put this on, your whole guitar is gonna be completely out of whack. You're gonna need to adjust the truss rod, you're gonna need to probably adjust your bridge, or if you have a tremolo, your springs in the back. There's like a bunch of different adjustments. So sometimes people buy strings if they don't know what they're doing, and then all of a sudden their guitar plays completely different. That's because of the string gauge. So you have to learn how to adjust the truss rod, get the springs set up, and then adjust your height of your strings. Because if you go from, like I said, an 838 up to an 1148, that's gonna be such a difference in thickness that your strings are gonna need to be higher up for the thicker strings. A lot goes into strings. I use the 1046, like I said, for half step down, but then when I play full step down, which is quite a bit, I actually use 1148s, which to me, these things feel so awesome. They're so heavy, and they actually even make little hybrids of like the top 3 strings from one set and the bottom 3 strings from another set. So if you want to have real heavy rhythm guitar, your low E, your A, and your D string would be real low gauge, heavy strings, and then you'll have higher, thinner strings up on your G, B, and E, so you'll have a hybrid set, and you can still play your leads all crazy and get your action real low on the treble side. So there's so much that goes into them, and there's all these awesome new types of strings that come out. I still stick with like the basic slinkies, but now there's like cryogenically frozen, coated. There's a ton of different kinds of strings these days, and fun to try them out, but man, am I excited to be part of the Ernie Ball team. So try out a bunch of different strings. Let me know down in the comments what kind of strings you guys use. I'm curious to find out what everyone's using these days. What gauge do you guys like for different tunings? I appreciate you guys watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Hit the like button down there, and I'll see you guys in the next video.